I'll start off.
Yeah, you start off.
Yeah. You start.
I'm starting. I thought you were starting.
You start.
I'll start it. Okay, I'll pause for a second.
I'm keeping this in.
Oh, yeah. I was about to start then. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm starting again this time, and as you can hear, I have my voice back. Fantastic. So we're just doing another Q&A. We've had a couple more questions. So I'm going to fire them at Jonathan, and he's going to answer them in as much detail as he can. So Rick has asked, as someone who is lean and fully functional at work, would getting bigger propose additional benefits or risks?
That's a good question. So essentially, is the extra weight that you're carrying worth the extra strength and body mass that you would acquire? Realistically, probably not. I mean, knowing the work that you do around structuring, building things, engineering, working under cars, working with bikes and things and technology, being 20 stone or 300 pounds probably isn't going to work out too well. You're not going to get a great benefit from being a big person. Saying that though, if you're someone that's struggling with, say, you're trying to use a wrench or something, you're working under a car, you're trying to lift something within limits, yeah, it's helpful to be strong and use your strength. Outside of your usual physical activities, you might not benefit from additional work, especially if you're trying to just work on your cars or things or anything like that. In terms of practical use, quite limited. Clothes won't fit very well. I tend to wear 3XL clothes. That's pretty normal for me. You'll find that you get inflammation a lot easier, so you've got to be a bit strict with your diet. That's a problem that a lot of bodybuilders suffer with, but they don't often talk about. Other than that, your blood pressure can increase. That's probably one of the most noteworthy things. And your heart will expand. The left ventricular hypertrophy happens when essentially the outer wall of your heart on where the blood pumps into that segment of the heart, that will then become thicker, just to be able to deal with the extra blood volume trying to pump through. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, but long term, you're going to be dealing with more blood pressure, which isn't ideal. So there's a time and a place for gaining muscle, and I think it's for the average person just within your limits. I mean, you don't have to be the Incredible Hulk, but you can get stronger. Some people might just want to develop the biceps or the legs, or within reason, just to be a bit look better down the bar, sort of thing. So some people do that, and I do know people that do that, and they seem to be quite happy and not suffering ill effects. So
yeah, perfect. Now, Svetlana has asked, how much salt, if any, do you take in a carnivore diet in relation to workout?
That's a good question. So when someone asks me that, I usually ask what they're currently doing. If they have a diet with a lot of carbohydrates in it, I know you don't, Svetlana, you're like myself, no carb life. Yeah, then you're going to need more salt to direct the muscle glycogen, to form muscle glycogen, which will then attract more water, which means you're more thirsty, and it's a never-ending cycle. And as your requirements increase, as your energy expenditure increases, if you're an athlete, as time goes on, your training gets further and further, then you will actually end up needing more and more salt. My bodybuilding days, I've needed probably somewhere close to from, I'd say 15 grams or something a day of salt. That's in the teaspoons, not the sodium measurement itself, but yeah, 15 grams was about what I was using when I was taking carbohydrates. Nowadays, I mean, I can sometimes go have a meal without actually salting the food. I don't always salt my eggs and Parmesan cheese in the morning, there's salt in the butter that I use to make my butter bites. So you do get a taste for it, especially when you're on these sorts of diets, and you'll find that your amount will vary. Saying that, there are people, long-term carnivores, that don't use any salt. So what's happening in the community at the moment is people saying, I'm going to try this low salt thing, this no salt thing, see how it works. It's a lengthy process to let your antidiuretic hormones increase. So anything like that would have to be structured in a regimented pattern. You'd what's the reverse of incrementally? I don't know. You'd gradually decrease your sodium intake as time goes on, and that might take a period of a few months or maybe even a year. But if you've got a taste of salt, your body needs it,
Mm.
and you'll find that taste of salt will decrease as time goes on. There's lots of questions as well about, different minerals, electrolytes. You'll get pretty much all you need through a carnivore diet. Remember, the RDAs are significantly different to what we actually need. Evidence for this is in the fact of people that start paleomedicina approach, the PKD diet. They're actually taking in less nutrients, but they have more taurine in the food that they're eating. Therefore, they're able to better regulate their electrolyte balance. And from that, they'll find, okay, this extra taurine that I'm having from my diet through real food is decreasing my mineral and electrolyte need. So therefore, I don't actually need to take in, 4.7 grams of potassium per day. Bear in mind, I'm a 6'1", 240-pound bodybuilder, something like that. Relatively lean, around 10, 12% body fat. I take in around 2 grams of potassium per day.
Mm.
Sodium, I'm not sure. I don't measure that anymore, but I know it's not a ridiculous amount. It's just maybe a few grams. I don't know, maybe 4, 5 grams, 6 grams. But yeah, that's where I stand on sodium and salt intake in general.
Wonderful. And kind of a common question, like I get asked, and I'm sure you do too. How do you know when you need some extra salt or just some salt in general? How would you know?
Okay, so what will happen is you'll get a taste for it. So you'll have your food, and it doesn't seem appealing. Some people, they'll do no salt in their meals and be eating the food and think, oh, it doesn't really taste that good. You need to identify what nutrients your body needs, and your body will send you signals to do that. So you'll find, put a pinch of salt in your mouth, tastes good. All right, add some more salt to your food. Put it in your mouth, it doesn't taste good. Okay, you need something else. You need water or nutrients like protein, fat. So yeah, that's why you'd use it. Outside of that, that's quite a tricky question, actually. I mean, what you'll notice is you'll sweat more if you have more salt. Your body does have ways of regulating itself in terms of electrolyte balance. So if you're having a workout, and granted, if you're trying hard, you will be sweating anyway, but if you're sweating profusely, it's usually your body's way of saying, okay, I've had too much salt and I need to liberate some of that from the cells of my tissues. So you'll sweat more. If you're having too much salt as well, you'll actually start drinking more because you'll need more salt to process, more water to process that salt through your kidneys. So think of it as a holistic approach. Use lots of different angles to identify how much salt you need. Don't get on the bandwagon of trying what people are doing at the moment and, not salting your foods and having a heart attack. I mean, that's not ideal.
No. Start small as well. I think you've managed to figure out your kind of grammage for the day. And I think currently you've worked out about 10 grams a day is kind of what you need. Obviously, again, depending on the day. So definitely start small and then kind of gradually increase. Okay, so moving on. Killer Whisper has asked, is MTOR signaling bad? And when should you try and raise AMPK? Is there a perfect amount of each for optimal health? I'm kind of paraphrasing what they said there.
Yes, I've reworded that one. So it's quite a tricky question. I've reworded it that way deliberately so that the audience that watches this video can understand what I'm talking about. So mTOR is a anabolic hormone. AMPK is a catabolic hormone. So they kind of counteract each other. They're a different pathway. So with the anabolic hormones, you're focusing on, your body is focusing on accruing more nutrients in your cells. It's trying to uptake things. So think hormone in insulin, that's an anabolic hormone that's trying to store things. mTOR is for, it's a long word, but it's protein synthesis, especially. Essentially rambling. So yeah, it's protein synthesis, basically. That's what's triggering. AMPK is a catabolic hormone. It's stimulated higher when you are fasting. Also, as well, if you're not taking in as much carbohydrates through a carnivore sort of way of eating, then your AMPK will be signaled to a slightly higher degree. So the problem we have there is if people are trying to elevate the AMPK and reduce the mTOR, the tissues of our body will not adapt, develop, and repair properly. So there is a means of balance you have to acquire here. So you're not trying to, up your catabolic hormone so you're going to get more longevity. bear in mind your longevity is very closely linked to the muscle mass that you have. Not that you have to be a bodybuilder, but you need enough muscle mass. And generally speaking, the people with the stronger grip strength, the people that stay active, they're able to move more, use their mind more. People with more muscle in their body generally will live longer to a point. Now, people in the community are trying to raise AMPK too much. So they're trying these fasting methods. It is a stress. It is a catabolic hormone. And it does trigger a catecholamine response. This will make you jittery in some cases. So you'll think, oh, I'm feeling better. I'm more alert. There's a balance to it. You don't want to feel like that all the time because you'll burn out.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's essentially the same thing as taking a load of caffeine over and over again. That's a stressor, is a catabolic response. So you want to minimize that. So there is something called an insulin glucagon level, a ratio specifically. So the ratio should be for human beings 1.3. That is normal in people that are following a low carbohydrate diet. So the idea of that is you have slightly more insulin in relation to glucagon. Now, when you're eating your meals with protein and fat, that will raise your insulin levels. Not to as much of a degree as having carbohydrates, but it will definitely increase it. Now, you need that spike in insulin to help shuttle nutrients to your muscles and regulate your electrolyte balance. Bart K speaks about that a lot. Harry Spano speaks about that a lot. So it's well documented. That's what we need to do. Now, on the flip side of it, if we do that too much, we will essentially get fat. That is where insulin sensitivity decreases. So when we repeatedly increase the amount of insulin that we're secreting due to elevated blood glucose, our pancreas is not able to release as much insulin from it over time. So essentially, we need more insulin output to be able to control the glucose that we have in our blood. So do you see how there's a balance here? So don't focus on either one. It's the same thing with the high fat, high protein, low fat, low protein, all these different ratios. Use each macronutrient as an individual unit to elevate different results. Now, I personally don't have any clients currently. I may have one in the new year that do any kind of fasting. They're not deliberately fasting at all. It's not because there isn't a benefit to it, but there's a time and a place. And most people are chronically stressed, and adding that additional stress to them is not going to benefit them. So where we go from here is, what times do we use a fasting method or a catabolic method? So for example, we've got Christmas coming up. By the time this video airs, it might already have been by. I don't know. It depends when I put this up. But people use these sort of methods to get over a binge, basically. So it can trigger some eating disorder aspects. So what you're going to be looking at doing is perhaps doing a 1 to 3 day fast. This is, again, much easier if you're fat adapted. So don't go from a standard Western diet to fasting and think you're going to manage fine. Once your muscle glycogen runs out, the glucose stores within your body in general will decrease, then you'll suffer tremendously for it. Whereas being fat adapted, so doing a ketogenic or a carnivore diet, that will minimize the stress on the body and mean that you'll have a sustained energy release. So again, 1 to 3 days, that's a fasting. I'd say proper fasting starts around 3 days. That's when your gut is completely clear and your body is in a completely immediate energy deprived state. So, what I'm saying to some people is, if you've had a cheat meal sort of thing, or a treat meal, as I like to call it, then you might then fast a few hours after that, longer than usual. So if you say eat from, I don't know, 10 a.m. in the morning till 6 at night, you might push that to 2 p.m. till 6 at night. There's different ways you can do it. Don't be too obsessed with the numbers. I'm someone that comes from that background where I'm obsessed with numbers. But in a lot of cases, you have to listen to your body. So don't go trying to chase these like 40-hour fasts thinking, I'm okay with that. You're jittery, your heart's palpitating. Stop.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Listen to your body. Make sure you're fat adapted first, then try getting into the fasted state. So don't get too hyped up about these numbers, honestly.
The last thing you want to do is add more stress to your body. It's not worth the aggro for it. You'll pay the price, and no one wants to suffer any more than they have to, do they? So we want to get you into a place where you don't suffer at all.
Minimize suffering, definitely.
Exactly. Perfect. So next question is from Zbigniew. You're going to love this one. It's our favorite topic. How is taurine important?
Ah, yes, taurine. Good. Yeah. Well, I was thinking of doing a 24-hour video with Mr. Harry Sopanos, the King of Tasmania, at some point. Essentially, when you read anything, the main purpose of it is as an electrolyte balancer. It's what they call an osmolyte. So what you'll find is throughout your whole body, in near enough all tissues, there is a taurine receptor. So that means your body needs it. It is essential, and it does a lot of things to regulate things throughout your whole body. So in your eyes, your heart, it's the main one, and your muscles as well. So it can work in a few different ways. So it does regulate your gut pH, your gut acidity. So I'm a bit out of breath from talking so much. So yeah, it does that. What else to do? Trying to think. It's an electrolyte balancer, an osmolyte. It regulates that. So if you have enough taurine in your diet, enough meat, it generally comes in meat at high quantities, then you have enough in your diet and you won't need to worry too much about other minerals. So everything will be secreted at a normal rate. Harry had a video recently on magnesium. The excretion rate of magnesium, I believe, something around 120 milligrams for an average person each day. So that would signify that that's the minimum that we need. Now, if we exercise, that amount can increase from between 10 to 20%. And that's also, it's also based on body mass as well. So someone like me, very heavy, 6'1" bodybuilder, I'm going to need a lot more than 120 milligrams. I'm taking in between something around like 200 milligrams per day. So yeah, it does work well to regulate your electrolyte balance, and that applies to all minerals. So don't get too concerned about minerals in general. The other things, it's an antioxidant. It has immunomodulatory effects, and it can help clear lung scarring, I believe. There's a technical term for it. I've lost it. But it works in a lot of different ways and lots of different pathways around your whole body. It is too much for one video. I'll be here for hours. But yeah, that's essentially it. If you've got any more questions on that, just send me a message.
Maybe we can do another video on just taurine and try and get Harry on if he's got the time as well, because Harry is the taurine king, as we know. Because I know you do get a lot of questions with it of, will it lower my blood pressure? Will it raise it? I've got high blood pressure. Will it bring it down? Well, like you said, it kind of regulates everything in your body. So if you have low blood pressure, it regulates it to kind of normal blood pressure. Isn't that right?
Yeah, just be careful if you've got any medications that you take, like blood pressure medications. Yeah.
Consult with your doctor first. Obviously, we don't know your health and whatever medications you're on, so it could have contraindication to some things. So just definitely consult with the doctor first.
I'll add one more thing on that as well. For a lot of people, it's maybe 1 gram 3 times per day. If you want to take it in one hit, because you don't want to take it more than once a day, just do maybe 1, 2, 3 grams at night. Some people use more. I mean, I've used about 5 grams. Sophie uses 5 grams twice a day.
Yeah.
I've been up all the way from about 15 to 20 grams before. No ill effects. Again, I probably have better health in some circumstances compared to other people. So, it's not going to be a detriment to me. It is naturally found in foods, like I said, so it's not going to kill you. But the other effect is the GABA stimulation effect. So it will help you relax, reduce cortisol, and hopefully sleep at night. So, a lot of people will benefit from having it at night. It helps exercise recovery as well. That. So yeah,
definitely.
Brilliant.
Wonderful. So Zbigniew has asked, can you share your opinion or experience with metabolic flexibility?
Yeah. So metabolic flexibility is the idea that you can take in different energy substrates to fuel your body, your workouts, whatever you're trying to do. And that is whilst minimizing the damage that you're going to acquire from it. So, for example, if you take in too much carbs, you're going to reduce your fat intake, generally speaking. A lot of people do. Therefore, you're less likely to use fat as an energy substrate. You take in more fat, you're less likely to use carbs as an energy substrate. So it is balanced and made dictated nearly entirely by the fuel that you put in your body. The problem with carbs is over time you'll become less insulin sensitive. So like we said earlier, so you have to take in more carbohydrates to fuel your body because your body doesn't deal with it as well.
Yeah.
Which requires more insulin, which means your blood sugar is then going to lower. Then you're going to have all sorts of problems with managing your blood glucose. So your energy will dip, your appetite will be all over the place, you won't feel as good, your hormones will be messed up, your mood will probably be worse.
Your body's working kind of overtime, isn't it?
It's
to handle it all.
And also it's a very glycating process. Amino acids, fatty acids will become glycated as a result of carbohydrate, especially when too much.
Yeah.
That is an aging process that doesn't benefit you at all. So when people say you need carbs for energy, you don't. Look at the energy substrate system, look at the biochemical process around it. You can produce all the ATP you need through fatty acids. Then any additional you need for different, the glucose aspect of it can be converted from protein into glucose. So don't worry too much about that. Now, people have this idea that you can just eat low carb or keto or carnivore for, I don't know, a week, be fine, be more insulin sensitive than take in loads of carbohydrates. Problem with that is your body and your gut isn't as resilient at that point. Your body's used to taking in a diet with low fiber intake. Your gut microbiome is effectively made and balanced by pretty much what you put into it. The other things come to play, but generally what you feed your body is what it's going to produce. So you feed your body protein, fat, it's going to create the gut microbiome around that and those two nutrients. So when you go off plan, you eat the carbohydrates, you eat the potatoes, the crisps, whatever, popcorn.
Yeah.
Your body's not going to tolerate it as well. So essentially you're trying to using it as a bit of a crutch. So that's the problem I have with metabolic flexibility. And I mean, you're going to get more nutrition from fat. I mean, you need omega-3, you need DHA, EPA, omega-6 to some degree as well. That has some useful essential processes. You need your protein, you need the amino acids, you need the animal protein specifically. And there's a lot of things found in fat specifically that are very, very tolerable and compatible with what should be within the human diet.
Wonderful. So looking at the next question, I think I'm going to answer this one from Nick. He asks, how do we transfer the butter bite mold to the freezer without spilling the mixture because they're so flexible? So there's two ways that we do it. Well, you can either put the mold into the drawer of the freezer already and then pour your mixture in and then gently close the drawer. Or you can play a risky game and fill your mold while it's on the side and then carefully carry it to the freezer without spilling it. You tend to put the mold in the freezer drawer, take the drawer out, fill it, because then you're not in like a tight space trying to fill it, and then put it back into the freezer carefully. I now do that because I did start by putting it on the side, filling it, and then carrying it very carefully, spilling it slightly, and then putting it in the freezer.
Yeah, my the nerves in my hands aren't as good as they used to be.
No.
I'm very clumsy and I drop everything, so it's a lot safer bet. I don't want to waste any butter.
No.
Especially the amount I get for it and the amount I pay for it.
And the look of concentration on our faces as we're doing it, that no one talked to us.
Don't waste a drop.
No, we can't waste it. No. But it goes all over the mold sometimes, but once it's frozen, you can just kind of pick it off like you do, don't you? We don't waste any parts of the butter bite. Absolutely not. So final question is from me, because I know I get a few questions about it, and I'm sure you do with supplements. In regards to supplements, is there a basic list we should be taking? And is there like a specific time in the day? Because I know people have asked me, well, should I take it in the morning, at nighttime? Does it really matter? So what do you think?
I mean, it depends who the person is that's asking me that. So when I used to work in a vegan health food shop, a lot of people there needed omega-3. There's no omega-3 in plant foods, none. No EPA, no DHA in plant foods, none, not a gram. So that's an essential nutrient. So that's why people fall off that. That's a topic for another day. But yeah, so if you're vegan, omega-3, Probably vitamin D as well. You do get vitamin D in some animal foods, fair enough, fair sort of quantity. So there's that in there as well. I'm trying to think what else. You got active and exercising, perhaps taurine, maybe creatine. If you're between diets, I mean, you're trying to go towards the carnivore diet, magnesium can be useful in transitioning. A lot of them are what if and it depends kind of thing.
It's not like a set list, is it? It all depends on you as a person and what your body needs. Because like me and Jonathan take different supplements because my body needs something different to him. So
yeah, bear in mind we've got all different health problems. So I mean, there's things here and there that can be beneficial.
It's not as cut as dry as everyone take this.
Yeah, I mean, there is one thing, it probably vitamin D. A lot of people, especially if you're quite far from the equator, will benefit from taking vitamin D. In terms of doses, I'm not a doctor, but I don't think they should prescribe that anyway. I think that should be down to a nutritionist, really, like myself, or a dietitian. I don't know. Yeah, but vitamin D, so somewhere around 4,000 to maybe 10,000 I use. 4,000 would be more so towards people that get some sunlight. And
depends where you live as well, doesn't it?
It'd scale up. So essentially, you would need more if you are not living in your native homeland, so to speak. So people of a black ethnicity may benefit from taking more vitamin D in somewhere where there is less sunlight. So Britain, that could be part of the reason why certain demographics of people have worse health in some cases. It's one of many things. There's a lot of things going down to it, but yeah, for myself, I mean, I'm using somewhere between 4,000 and 8,000 units per day. I find that gets me in good stead with my hormone levels. I take that alongside vitamin K2 as well. That supports bone health and heart health in various different ways. Outside of that, trying to think, take it with a fatty meal. It is a fat soluble vitamin. Ideally, take it somewhere around 9, 10, 11 o'clock. That's probably the optimal time to take it if you can take it at that time. There are some stimulatory effects to it that are very mild, but it's important to note that because some people might take it in the evening and think, I couldn't get sleep last night. I don't want anyone to suffer and not sleep. So again, sleep another thing. Key. Another thing is the vitamin B. So vitamin B is something you want to take during the day, especially in the morning. It's going to benefit you there. I mean, I need to do a separate video on vitamins. Like Harry would do a video on vitamin B2 for like 4 hours. These sort of videos are reserved more for people like Harry that have read through the textbooks and have the book on all these things. So, it's a bit out of my scope. So I'm not going to talk about things that I don't know everything about because it's not very professional of me. And there's a level.
You don't like to pass across any potential wrong information. So
no, not once. No, I don't do that.
No.
All right. Is that all the questions?
That wraps up all our questions. Brilliant. Yeah. If you guys have any more questions, pop them in the comments. And then if we get enough, we can, if it's there, we can do like another Q&A 4 maybe.
Look forward to that.
Yeah. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, guys.